People seem to be optimizing for views. They never optimize for revenue. What's the first or most common thing you see?
So nearly everybody that I talk to has at some point done and when they do there's this big spike in sales.
John Ainsworth, the funnel guy.
If all of the advice was wiped off the table, what's the one thing you'd want to remind people who are looking at trying to scale their business on?
So there's 15 crucial elements to a high-performing sales page. The first thing is to have a
Today he's revealing his secrets, teaching business owners how to turn audiences into paying customers with funnels that practically think for themselves so they can scale without guesswork or spammy tactics.
Which elements of data should we be tracking in order to then scale up a funnel, scaling with ads?
So there's a few ways that you can scale with ads. The one that we use with most people is a tripwire funnel. That's so important.
For years, he's been helping course creators 2 to 5x their revenue through smart email marketing and high converting funnels, generating over $12 million in sales last year.
Kind of trying to brainstorm this on a
brilliant.
podcast, right? How might that look for them?
So, but it would be one-to-one at that level.
Okay, it's quite straightforward. Nearly all sales come through email. There's a page in most people's funnel they do nothing with that's more valuable than nearly anything else, which is the
Welcome to the Healthy Entrepreneur Podcast. Before we dive into this episode, I want to take a second to speak about our sponsor, Pith Stem, who we are thrilled to have on this journey with us. As someone who is always looking for ways to improve my healthy hustle, Pith Stem's drop-top desk stood out to me as the best full work-from-home solution on the market. The world of work from home is changing, and a laptop or screen perched on your lap or dining room table isn't enough anymore. It's imperative that we have a solution at home that matches our productivity station that we can have in our office. But of course, homes weren't made to be worked in, and not all of us want a dedicated study. That's why I'm so happy that Pith Stem created this perfect solution. They designed this desk with both the needs of the professional and their home in mind. It's perfect because it allows me to have a full productivity station that suits my needs and helps me get the most out of every minute that I spend at it, not only so I work comfortably, but that I actually enjoy it. And the best thing about DropTop, I can close and lock it at the end of the day to keep work and home separate. And it looks awesome on the wall. You can get your DropTop desk anywhere in the world from pithandstem.com or just Google DropTop and you'll find it pretty quickly. So John, you have helped creators and entrepreneurs go from zero to multi-millions of dollars. What is the thing that you normally see when someone hits a plateau versus someone that breaks straight through it?
So nearly everybody that I work with has hit a plateau, and the kind of person I'm helping the most is someone who has got a great product. People already love that. They've already built an audience. Might be on YouTube, might be Instagram, might be LinkedIn, whatever. But the reason they've hit a plateau is because they've never learnt the skill of how you convert from from audience to buying the product. So they kind of rely on just some people within the audience will go buy it. And instead of creating like a really systematic process of how do you get people from one step through to the other. So that's the plateau that I see the most often. I'm sure there's 1,000 other reasons why, but that's the one that I kind of feel I'm an expert in.
Yeah. Okay, so if we delve into that a bit more. So what is really interesting to me is that, I'm sure you see this more than I do, but people seem to be optimizing for views. Mm-hmm. They never optimize for revenue. And then they get to their million subscribers or whatever, and just like you're saying, they're like, no one's making any money though. Versus the people that have 20 or 30,000 followers or subscribers who have so much money they don't know what to do with, and then they're struggling to get the views up. So when we say they're hitting that plateau of not being able to convert, what's the first or most common thing you see where as soon as you walk in, you go, well, you haven't done A, B, and C to get to?
So nearly everybody that I talk to has at some point done an email promotion, and they normally do it on Black Friday. And when they do an email promotion, there's this big spike in sales. And I go through, I map out with everybody, let's look at your sales over the last 3 years, whatever. And there's these spikes. And I go, oh, what did you do there? And I know what they did. They did an email promotion, right? And they say, oh, I did an email promotion. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. How come you didn't do any more? And the reason that a lot of these people don't is because they're worried that if they send too many email promotions, they'll be seen as salesy and spammy.
Yeah.
And so then they don't send email promotions, and then they don't make the increase in revenue. And what I've noticed is everybody seems to believe that there's these two options, right? Either you send email promotions and you're salesy and spammy and everybody hates you, or you don't send email promotions and everybody loves you and it's all wonderful. And luckily, we live in a world where there are more than two options.
Nice.
There's more than two things that could possibly happen, right? So everyone has this false dichotomy in their head, and they're like just really panicked about it, and so they just don't send any other email promotions. And the option that I recommend to people is, what if you sent good email promotions that people like to receive, and then they were happy about it? And this is almost like this. People haven't considered this as an idea. It's like, that's because they don't know how, right? And most email promotions that most people send out are annoying and no good. And it's just, you kind of buy the right to send it by sending free content. But then when you send a promotion, then some people will get upset at you because, oh, you've sold out and whatever else. So what I help people do is then learn how to write good email promotions. And that's the thing that makes the biggest jump in sales for them. So like, we had a client the other day, right? He's in the architecture space, and he runs a business called 30 by 40. And he was making tens of thousands of dollars a month because he had a giant audience, like 1 million subscribers on YouTube, something like that. But his potential was so much bigger. So we came along and helped him to run email promotions. And he instantly, his second month working with us, he had a 6-figure month.
Nice.
And he was just like, what's happening right now? So he's on holiday on a yacht with his wife. And so he's already got a quite nice life, obviously, right? So it's not like he's hard done by. But then he's checking his Teachable account where he's selling his courses. And he shows it to his wife, and she goes, well, that can't be right. There must be a mistake. Because she just can't believe how much money is coming into the account. And that's kind of, for people who've, now this isn't everybody, right? But for people who've done the work of building an audience, and they've done the work of building a great product, but they haven't done the bit in the middle, there's the potential for these giant breakthroughs.
Yeah, that is really interesting though. So what do you think makes a good email marketing campaign? And we haven't got to go super high level, we can bring it down. Anecdotally, my PT has just started doing some email campaigns once every couple of weeks, it looks like.
Yeah.
And I opened it this morning. He's in Dubai, so I've opened it this morning because he said it yesterday. And this subject line was massive, and he won't mind me. Hopefully he listens to this and he won't mind me saying this. It was really, really long, but it intrigued me because he's been in Thailand doing some Muay Thai classes, whatever. And it talked about him being quite unwell. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. I'll open this up. There's going to be some sort of link to like fitness. And it was basically about how his entire trip was ruined by him being given food poisoning.
That sounds like Thailand, yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
but I've never had it, but everybody else seems to.
But I was looking for like I'm laughing, but where am I going to buy?
Yeah.
And it never came. And so I thought I'll ask John, because to me, I opened it, but I know him, so maybe there was different know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
I was reading it because it was funny, but there's no extra value other than I'm just going to promote him on the podcast because I thought it was a funny email. But to you, like, where would you see that as a pro or a con, or how would you look at that? I know you can't see it, this is off the cuff, but in terms of how email marketing goes as a weekly newsletter kind of vibe, how would that sit for you? Or would you use that? How would you change that up?
Yeah, so that kind of email is totally fine. It's just not part of a promotion.
Yeah.
So it's useful, interesting content that somebody sends out that gets the audience to feel like, oh, I love being on this email list. I want to read their emails. I'm used to opening their emails. I'm even used to maybe clicking on stuff in the emails because it's such useful, great content. But you also have to have the bit where you promote stuff. So the original question you'd asked was like, what makes a good promotion, right? So we call these nurture promos, because the goal we've got with these is to try and make it so that the audience is getting value out of them at the same time as being moved towards the sale. So you're trying to do both things together, which is harder, but it's doable. So what we do is we spend a week, first of all, without mentioning a product for sale, and we send out 3 emails, and these are pain agitation solutions. So this is a classic framework from copywriting. Most people who don't do copywriting probably don't know it, but it's a very, very standard, useful framework, pain agitation solution. And so what we're doing in this is it's all about the setup. We're trying to get the audience into the right frame of mind about this particular problem. So I'll take a step back if that's okay. Mm-hmm. The first thing that we do anytime we're working with somebody is to go through and survey their audience. So we're learning, like, what is it that are this audience's pain points? What's their desires? What is it that moves them towards buying? If they bought already, so we have 2 different groups, the buyers and the non-buyers. If they bought, why did they buy? What got them over the edge? If they haven't bought, why not? What else have they used to try and solve this problem? What was wrong with that problem? We're trying to learn everything we can about them so that we understand them better than they understand themselves. And if you read like any classic marketing text, like Breakthrough Advertising, is talking about how you can't create desire in the audience. You can tap into the desire that already exists, and that's what we're trying to do. And so within this, what we do is we're finding a crucial pain point that the product solves. And the first email, the pain email, is about that pain point. And we're trying to bring it to life for the audience. We're trying to do two things here. We want to show them that we understand their life and their pain point and what's going on. Because if they don't believe that we understand their problem, why on earth would they believe that we can solve it? So we want to show that we understand it. And the second thing is we want to get them thinking about it, because they've got this pain, they've got this problem, but they've also got 100 other things going on in their life. So we want them to get it conscious. Now, the next email, the agitate email, we've got an open loop from the first one through to the second one. And what we're trying to do here is bring to life not just that problem, but how that problem affects their life on a broader scale in ways that they probably can't see. So as the person who has solved this problem for hundreds or thousands of people with your product or your service or your course or whatever it is, you know how their life works as a whole in ways that they have no idea. They can't see it. They're too close to it. They don't have the context. They don't have all the other information. So you're showing them, okay, this problem that you've got, this is the knock-on effect of this. You know, let's say you're trying to learn some software for editing videos. Well, because you haven't been able to solve this problem, because you don't know how to use nodes or whatever it is, you therefore aren't able to get that promotion or get these extra clients or achieve the kind of videos you're trying to achieve, whatever it is, right? You need to kind of understand that audience and what that pain point is. So you're bringing that to life, but you also in this email, you're showing empathy. So you're saying, I know these are your problems, but it's okay, because in the next email, I'm going to give you a solution for this. So now they're primed, they're kind of ready. And the third email, we're trying to create reciprocity. We're trying to get them to like us and trust us, because we're going to actually start to solve this problem. We're going to give them something they can do in 10 to 15 minutes that's going to make their life better with regards to that specific problem. So if they are, learning how to want to learn how to train their dog because the dog pees on the floor, we're going to give them a tip about something they can do. But it's not going to solve the whole problem. No. It's going to solve a small part of it. So now they're going to go, oh, this person really knows what they're talking about. They're actually helping me with the problem. They understand the problem. They understand how it affects my life, all of this. Now they're ready. Now you can actually mention whatever it is you're selling. So the next week, we're then going to actually launch the product and start talking about it. So that's the nurture part of it, because we're helping them in that week, but we're also priming them to get ready for a promotion.
And you think the 3 emails is enough per week? You don't want to overweigh them?
That's what we found. Yeah, we've experimented a lot, and that's what we found. Now, this is the specific framework for selling courses.
Yeah.
Now, if you're selling a service, that might be a bit different. That's not my total area of expertise. I sell my own service, but I've not sold services for thousands of other people. I kind of have a smaller sample in terms of how to do it. But what I did is I've tested this with people selling coaching, people selling SaaS products. Jodie Cook, who's been on the podcast before, she took this model that I was presenting, and I went through with her. I went out to visit her in Barcelona, and we wrote these emails together, and then she sent them out, and then she had a big spike in sales because a whole lot of people came through from it. So I've tested it in different spaces. I've done this in the services, but I've really tested it in courses. So I know this is the exact model for courses, and then it also works for definite in other areas.
Okay, so this is interesting. Maybe we can challenge this. So I have written a book.
Okay.
But I want to innovate the way that a book is launched for our industry. So I want to launch it only to the listeners of this podcast. So it's not going to go on social media. It's not going to go anywhere. I'm going to try and get it to bestseller just internally by sending it out to the people that listen to this podcast and therefore on our podcast specific listener or newsletter.
Yeah.
They're not on the business newsletter and they're not on those lists. So if I wanted to warm them up, how would you work through that to say, this is going to be a book launch event where it's going to be something that solves a specific problem, but I want to warm them up to a point where they help me, then get it to bestseller. It will obviously help them. I believe in the book and stuff. How would you work that over a 6 or 8 week period?
Yeah, I was going to say you wouldn't want that just over 1 week. You want to make it a much, much bigger period. So what's the book about?
Borrowing trust. So how do you build an audience from leveraging other people's audiences?
Okay. So if you're doing a big launch, there's a number of different elements that you can start to include. You can have challenges, you can have webinars, you can have WhatsApp groups, people who are actually trying specifically to solve that problem already and working with them and helping them. So I would probably start to pull together, first of all, the audience. like building the list of people who, so you've got the podcast, you've got all of this, you've got the book coming, you start talking about, right, this book is going to be coming out. And in the build up to that, I'm going to do all of this stuff. Yeah. I'm going to be giving away all this value. I'm going to be helping people so much with trying to solve this exact problem in all these different ways. If you want in, you need to, whatever, join this list, join this WhatsApp group, join the Facebook group, whatever it is, wherever you have that thing. Then you're basically trying to hype it up, right? You're trying to get people excited about solving this problem. So you're going to start out with a whole load of stuff that's around the problem and why that needs solving. They have to believe the problem needs solving. Otherwise, why would they be interested in a solution for it? And then I think you would probably start to you'd choose like a tiny element from it. And I don't know exactly what that might be, but you choose an element from it and then you start to do maybe a challenge around that where you go, right, we're going to solve this problem for everybody this week. And then maybe as part of that, you would have lives or webinars or what have you to get everybody like, oh my God, yes, I can see that as I do this thing that you've recommended, I'm getting this result. So you want just a small little part of it. Does anything come to mind where that could fit?
Oof. I guess just putting together a list of people that you want to connect with. So if you look at it from a networking point of view, who do you want to meet? Why would you want to meet them? Even getting clarity on that area would, I think, solve a lot of people's problems.
Okay. So that might be like a session, a series of sessions around it. Then another one is, so webinars are incredibly powerful. And I think that if you could then have like one webinar that you really worked on that was like, do you know the perfect webinar framework from Russell Brunson?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So if you basically take that, just for anybody in the audience who doesn't know that, I'm going to try and break this down. The idea is you take your offer, you start with the offer. So I would use Alex Hormozzi's $100 million offer framework and make the offer as compelling as humanly possible. Every bonus you can throw in there, every idea of how to make it better, everything that you could include so that if somebody buys that book, they're not just getting the book, they're getting their whole life to be, like improved. They're maybe getting additional things from partners that you've got who also could help them with an auxiliary, a kind of a nearby problem. You're thinking, okay, maybe if they buy the book but they don't implement it, that's an issue. So we're going to have some accountability sessions and we're going to do that for free if they buy 10 copies of the book or something like that, So Jodie, I helped with doing something kind of similar to this, and she was launching her 10-year career book. Yeah. And so she had it where if somebody bought 30 copies, I think, then they got a certain amount of coaching included as well. Yeah. So I bought 30 or I bought 100 copies of this book, but I was like, I don't have enough people to give this book away to, Jodie. So I worked with her and found a charity that we could send copies of the book to. And then what I realized is I then sent all of them there and I didn't get one for me. So then I had to go on. I had to go on Amazon and buy 101 copies, Anyway, so that's like there's all these things. What can you put in to make the offer so compelling? Yeah. Okay, so then you work backwards from that. And so the thing that you're then trying to do is figure out what is the one thing that if they believed it, they would have to then go buy your book. Buying the book would be the obvious next step. I must go buy this book because I believe that I need to build this audience, or that building this audience is what's going to change my business, or if I just had the right connections, I could 10x my business, or whatever it is, right, for you. So then you work backwards from that and you look at what is the 3 things that are currently stopping them from believing that. And you break down, you go, right, and it's often time, money, and something else. It's not always, but it's often those 3 things. The original framework that Russell Brunson uses, he talks about the something internal, something external, and the vehicle. But there's a lot of detail to it. But you try and figure out 3 things that are stopping them from believing that one thing. Then you figure out what things can you teach them that will stop them from believing what they currently believe, and therefore they will believe what you're now teaching them. And then you figure out stories that will explain each of those points. And that's a lot of work, right? So you build that whole thing up, and that's like then your webinar that you're going to use for launching. And then when you're doing the launch, you're going to have bonuses and you're going to have discounts and you're going to have guarantees and you're going to have every single thing that you can throw at it from the offer. So I'd include that. But yeah, I think the starting point, working backwards, is you need to understand your audience. You need to understand what is their current pain point that they're facing. And then you need to start to address that and get them thinking, I have to solve this problem. this is your 6 to 8 weeks out, a few weeks, whatever on this, is get them thinking, I have to solve this problem. I really need to fix this. I realize now that what Freddie's teaching is the thing that I actually need. So before they've even started looking at the offer, they're starting to think about the problem, and you're kind of addressing that.
What I really like is that you're not trying to sell a book. You're trying to help them solve the problem or get them to realize that they're solving the problem.
Yeah.
Whereas I think most people will just go, this is how you sell the book. Which is actually, this weekend was Hormozi's book launch, right? And it was buy 200 copies and you get all of this coaching. So in reality, you're not really buying a book. You're buying, like you say, you're buying all that stuff on the back end that you'll never get again, and it's building it all up.
Yeah.
John, I'm really interested in how this all came about, because the first time I came across you, I think, was when I listened to one of my favorite podcasts, which is the Tropical MBA podcast, amazing business podcast in the US. And you're on there explaining a lot of this stuff around funnels and building up offers. And you obviously know a lot about things like Russ Brunson's methods, and you've got an incredible network of people that you've helped. How did you get into the whole funnel building industry?
Yeah. So what happened originally was back about, 2004, something like that. I had been working in a sales job, and I was like, I want to try and figure out what is it I really want to do with my life. And I read this book called What Color is Your Parachute? It's about how to figure out your ideal job. And I identified that what I wanted to do was to do something called grassroots sports marketing. I kind of figured out, I wanted to help get people into physical activity. And this didn't seem to exist as a niche, but I was like, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway. I'll figure out some way to make this happen. So I kind of worked on that, and I became the campaigns manager for Sport England, which is like the government organisation for sport. And what I found was that it was just too bureaucratic. So I decided to quit that and go set up my own business. And so I was helping people, cancer patients, over 65s, disabled people, all kinds of people get into physical activity and sport. And what I learned, the techniques I learned along the way, were all of these funnel techniques to get people into doing activity. So we used to do Facebook ad campaigns and SMS marketing. That worked great for certain groups. And we would have direct mail, and that worked well for other groups and whatever. And so I started studying Russell Brunson, and I read .com Secrets and what have you. And at some point I was like, you know what? I'm still dealing with government. It's still very painful and bureaucratic, and I can't cope with it anymore. I want to kind of have more freedom and go travel the world. And so I was like, okay, what if I take this skill set that I've got and try and apply that to another sector? And I was like, what if everybody in who's selling stuff online is so much more advanced than the stuff that I've been doing, and my skills are valueless out there? And I tried it, and I found that it's way easier to sell stuff online than it is to get someone with cancer to go and start getting physically active. So I was like, oh, actually, this is much easier. This is great. And I tried out, I worked with e-commerce businesses and SaaS and course and services and what have you. And I found that course businesses was the one where I was like, it was the best fit. So I really like course creators. They tend to be very genuine, people who have like become very good at creating content. They've become very good at creating courses, but they've never learned this element of marketing. And so they're trying to do the right thing, but they're kind of just struggling. And I personally have gained so much from taking online courses, where there's so many skills that I've learned. And it's like, I can't believe I bought that for $150. And it was like, it took you 8 years to learn this thing, and then 6 months to make the course, and I bought it for $150. How is this possible? So I love selling courses. And that just kind of seemed to be a good fit for me.
I completely agree. Like, even if you go onto like a program or something and it's $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, the likelihood of you not getting that money back over the next 3 to 5 years, I think, is usually zero. If you've done your due diligence and you've gone with a person that you trust and you know, and they are good, that there is so much value in just learning, isn't there, and taking stuff with you.
Pause. Sorry, it's me, Freddie, interrupting myself. I just want to point out how well this guest is doing at building trust with you, the audience. They're adding value, they're giving inspiration, and they're hopefully educating you on a few different areas. You see, we're in a trust recession, and becoming a podcast guest is literally the best way to continue to build trust while so many are struggling. We've built a community of incredible entrepreneurs, all becoming the top most in-demand podcast guests in the world. And if you click some of our links below, not only have we got templates to help you become a top guest, we've also got a community that you can join to get yourself to where you want to be. Thank you so much for listening and watching these episodes. It feels like you're really part of the journey with us. And can I ask you one favor to help us grow even further? You may have noticed that we've been getting some amazing guests on. We've got more listeners than ever. But you can help us continue to give value to you by clicking that subscribe or follow button below. It helps us to show everyone else how well we're doing and therefore give you more value by getting bigger guests and take the podcast on the road. It takes you 2 seconds and it's completely free and it helps us more than you know. Thank you. Now back to the episode.
So what I'm really interested in is when you go into a new business, probably an online business, maybe a creator-led business, and someone's complaining that their funnel won't scale, what do you usually see first? And then what would you usually try and do first?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, the thing that I see is that they just aren't doing most of the elements. I think there's 3 crucial parts to it, right?
Yeah.
Nearly all sales come through, for low ticket offers, come through email. So if you're selling services, you're going to need to have a sales call with somebody, almost definitely. Depending on the price of the service, but very, very likely. If you're selling courses, which is my main thing, and you're selling something from like $100 up to $500, maybe even $1,000, you can do that just straight through email. But either way, even if you're trying to get people on a call, we need to get their email address first, because if you try selling through social, it's mediocre. You can do it, but you're getting about 20% of the results you could in total, in my experience. So we want to get people from the audience, from the SEO traffic or the podcast or the Instagram account or YouTube or wherever it is you've got traffic, onto the email list. So the second part is then we need to be sending out great email promotions to them. And then the third part is you've got to have a good funnel that converts. So that means if you're selling low ticket stuff, we're talking sales page, checkout page, order bump, and upsell. If you're selling something higher ticket, like coaching or services, whatever, we might be talking webinar through to a sales call, for example. So I helped someone the other day who's selling coaching, and she had an email list of 6,000 people, and she was selling coaching in the she helps people to invest in property in order to become financially independent. And she'd built up the email list, but she never really did anything with it. She never thought too much about it. And sometimes people would buy the coaching, and she sold it for like $8,000, and that was kind of all great. And she was like, oh, I'd like to actually make a bunch more money. I was like, okay, well, so run a webinar. So she ran email to webinar, pointing people to a sales call, and then sold on the call. And she ran 2 webinars, and she made $170,000. And she just came to me afterwards and she said, what should I do now? I was like, run another webinar. Run a webinar every month for forever. Yeah. So she did one of them to her own list and one to a partner's list. And I'm like, every month you are going to do at least one webinar. Repeat till rich, you know?
What do you think, though, in terms of webinars, funnels, obviously amazing. A lot of this must come down to how good the offer is or how irresistible it is, because people are doing so much weird stuff these days where they'll guarantee you get X return, and if not, I'll mow your grass for 2 years. What is an irresistible offer to you?
So there's certain elements that just most people are missing. And this isn't necessarily like, how do you make something so good that you can sell it just through cold email, which I see a lot, like I get a lot of those emails, and I look at it and I'm like, I just feel like I don't trust you. A lot of the time when I get those offers through, I'm like, there's no rapport building. There's nothing here that's like saying, that's made me feel like, yes, I know this person and what have you. And I'm sure they do make sales through it, or some people do make sales through it. But it's like I don't know. It always feels like kind of a snake oil type thing when I'm getting that through. So the things that I'm looking at is you've got to have a guarantee, money back guarantee. But the thing is, you've got to trust the person that they're actually going to fulfill on that. Because I've seen guarantees where I'm like, you're going to try and worm your way out of this if it ever comes and tell me that
well, they say if you do every single thing, and the first day it's like send 1 million emails. You didn't do it. You can't get
I had a friend recently had some trouble with this, who he had gone through a coaching program. They said, you have to go through the coaching program and do all of the things in order to get the refund if you don't do it. And then he wasn't getting the results, so he asked for the refund. And they said, oh yeah, but you've already had 6 months of coaching for free. And it's just like, no. That was your guarantee. That was what you told me I had to do. And it's like, so anybody who like just does it through cold email, it's my tendency to think that. So a guarantee, you've got to make sure that it is like actually addressing a really big pain point that they've got. You've got to have bonuses in there that go along with the main product. You want to make sure that, I think probably the biggest thing is that you really understand what their problem is and that you're actually solving the main problem. The guarantee does not have to be, if they trust you as a person, the guarantee does not have to be this outrageous, like you get 3 times your money back and what have you, you know. But if you're trying to do it from cold, then that's how you get someone's attention, right? So then you have to do all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And the reason I want to talk about offers is because I saw you obviously got lots of testimonials on YouTube, and I watched a really interesting one with a guy called Brendan. And the overarching philosophy for me was reducing the complexity of his offer. So rather than just adding stacks here and things there, you were like, let's make it really simple. And he doubled his revenue in like 4 months. So how do you know? Because if there's a founder listening to this and they're going, okay, I'll make my offer more simple, but maybe they don't know what that means. How do you look at an offer and go, this needs to be less complex?
Well, it all starts with that customer avatar research. So we have to understand that audience. We have to understand what is it they are trying to solve. So we need to know what they want their life to be like after they have done the thing that you are going to help them to do. And I'm trying to remember with Brendan, like exactly, because he's helping people with video editing, I think. And specifically, I mentioned nodes earlier. I think Brendan's the one who helps people with something that involves nodes in there, right? And so there was a number of things with Brendan, right? So one of the things was the offer, but like he wasn't doing the regular email promotions, and he wasn't doing a good enough job in collecting people's email addresses from his existing audience. He had a good sized audience on YouTube. So a lot of it was like, okay, we just need to do all of these things well. I'm trying to remember what we actually did.
You also used 6 times the conversion rate from his email with 3 copy changes. Like there was some things in there that he wasn't pushing them enough. He basically wasn't asking enough, which I thought was a really good one. Like people, maybe you know better than I do, but creators and people that are online, like you said earlier, actually, they create this content. They're so used to giving that they forget to ask. And then you were like, well, let's just ask a bit more. And it started to increase his conversion, or increase his revenue at least. And the conversion changes with the copy and the text. You were able to make some really big changes there, which I think is really, really interesting. And the other part was the sales pages. So you spoke about how important the headline structure and emotion are in order to get someone to even go through any kind of funnel. So we're almost looking right at the top, aren't we? Like, how do you get someone to click from a video, presumably, or an email? No, before it's video, onto a page, and then you have to convert again into email. So how do you get that page to work?
So that page is actually pretty easy.
Okay.
So the one where you've got someone's watching your YouTube video and then they go through to a landing page to opt into your email list. Those tend to convert around 70%. And you can do tweaks to make them better, but it's not a place where people normally struggle. The problem where people normally have is they don't actually promote the lead magnet from the video. That's the biggest issue. So if you want to get someone to opt into your lead magnet, you have some free resource, right? And you give it away you tell people in the video, we've got this free resource, just click the link down below, and they click through to the page. By that point, they're ready. They're like, I want the resource. You don't now need a complicated opt-in page. You just have to remind them, yes, this is the thing that you're getting. Give them a place to put their email. Don't put too many fields. Remind them that as by opting in for that lead magnet, they get into a newsletter. A few simple things like that. But like those pages are pretty straightforward. The place that people go wrong there is that 1, they don't have a lead magnet. 2, they don't put it in the description. They don't put it in the pinned comment, and they don't mention it in the video. So if you fix all of those, that solves like a lot of the problems, right? So with YouTube, you can get about a 2% opt-in rate for most people. 1% almost definitely, 2% for most people. And the way that you have to do that is if you want to get to 2%, you have a lead magnet that's particularly relevant to that video. So there's a friend of mine, Jack, he runs Banjo Skills. He came and did a episode on my podcast, The Art of Selling Online Courses. And he's like starting out, he's like a year or so into running his Banjo course business. And he does a great job with this, right? So he's teaching in a video a song. And he says, if you want the tabs, and tabs is like simple sheet music for string instruments. If you want the tabs, which everybody does, then that's in the description. Click the link in there.
Cool.
And it shows up as the first line. It's not, you don't have to click more to go and see all of the links. It just shows us the first line. There's not many other links. It's in the pinned comment as well. And if you click through, you're taken to a simple landing page and you opt into it. And so he mentions it in the video, the top of the description, and the pinned comment. And that's kind of the bulk of it. Now, you were mentioning about like headlines and stuff. That's on sales pages.
Yeah.
That's so important. That's a massive difference.
Yeah, because that's like the one. That's where someone actually has to then make a decision to buy or not, right?
Yes.
Especially
Yes.
which I guess is courses is slightly. I'm not going to say less important, but it must be different to someone who's going to spend high ticket, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. You're going to probably need it. We use VSLs because they are so, you can make them so much longer and there's more trust being built.
Yeah.
But also then I guess you have so much more time for someone to opt out or to bounce out, which is when you have pop-ups and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So which part do you think in terms of the sales page, someone like yourself, like a consultant would come in and go, that part is the first place I'm going to look at as a hole in this bucket, if you will.
So there's 15 crucial elements to a high-performing sales page.
Okay.
The easiest thing to fix is most people are just missing a bunch of them.
Okay.
So the first thing is to have a compelling headline. Now, most people, they might have a headline, but they have missed the compelling bit. So what most people go with is just, here's the name of my product.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's so boring. It's almost hard for me to describe how badly you've gone wrong by putting that as your headline. Now, the headline is the thing that's read by more than anybody else. So everybody, when they get to the sales page, will read the headline, and a lot of people will then go, nah, it's not for me. So we're trying to grab people's attention. Now, there's lots and lots of different headline frameworks. I've done whole episodes where I'm just teaching, here's how to write headlines. But an easy one to do is talk about the main benefit someone's going to get if they get your product.
Which no one does. They always say, this is the £1 million thing. They're like trying to still convert you, whereas it should be more about the thing they're going to get.
Yeah. And you can do, so a straightforward one is get this benefit without this pain point. So whatever the thing is they don't want to do, if your product means they don't have to do that thing, mention that in the headline as well. So those are kind of two relatively simple ones to do. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the best, highest converting headline you could possibly have, but it's one that nearly everybody can do. So I start with that. So then the next one is a high converting sub-headline. So you basically take that benefit and you go into more detail about it. Because you've got a smaller font, you've got more space, you can use more words. So you explain in a bit more detail, this is the benefit that you can get if you solve this problem. Then you'll have a VSL. This is like if you're trying to sell from the sales page, as opposed to when you kind of VSL you're talking about is like that's the main VSL for actually selling. This is like a bonus one that about 10 to 15% of people will watch it. Okay. And it kind of summarizes most of what's on the sales page. It might be 3 to 5 minutes long. Then you're going to have a call to action button straight away. I see a lot of people who decide they don't want to put the call to action button until much later down the page once someone's completely sold. We've tested it. That reduced conversions massively.
Is that because people are scrolling down, they see the button, they keep scrolling, then go back up? Or are they literally
some people are just ready to buy.
Oh, I see.
Some people are ready to buy, and you make it hard for them to buy, and then they don't buy. So
it's so counterintuitive,
it depends,
isn't it?
Right? So sometimes when you're showing a VSL, you won't show the button about how to buy and how much it might be until they've got to like 10 minutes through, because they need to have seen all that information because you're selling something higher priced.
Yeah.
I'm mostly helping people to sell stuff that's between $100 and like $500. Okay. So you don't need to have all of that information, especially if they're in your audience, they're warm, they trust you, they've been reading the emails, they're half sold already, they come through, a bunch of people are just like, yeah, can I buy? And then there's no button. They're like, okay, whatever.
It's not a price objection there.
No.
Interesting. Okay. What I'm really interested in here, John, is that I've heard you speak about before the sort of self-thinking funnels that think for you, sorry. And so what you were speaking about here is actually the idea that people get to a point, like you mentioned, where a funnel starts to work and they panic and change everything and it doesn't work anymore. Where in actual fact, what you've said in these previous podcasts is that the funnel's already thinking for you. It's already showing you how to scale it because it's got the data. So which elements of data should we be tracking in order to then scale up a funnel? If that makes sense.
So when you say scale it up, do you mean like scale it with ads or just get it to convert better so a higher percentage of people? I mean, because they're kind of the same thing, but they're slightly different.
So I would talk about scaling with ads.
Okay. So there's a few ways that you can scale with ads. One of the one that we use with most people is a tripwire funnel.
Okay.
Now, there's a couple of reasons why we do that. The webinar funnel still, in my experience, generally converts better as a front-end funnel, but the tripwire funnel is much more simple to do. So I start people with the tripwire funnel, and we may come back to the webinar funnel later. And we kind of covered briefly, like, here's the Russell Brunson's perfect webinar system. So the tripwire funnel is one that if you've got organic traffic, you can set this up and let it run with your organic traffic, get enough data to be able to tell if it's working, and sell like a low ticket offer, and then later on add ads in to see how well, to see if you can then use ads to scale that funnel up further. So it's quite straightforward. There's a page in most people's funnel they do nothing with that's more valuable than nearly anything else, which is the confirmation page after someone's opted in for your lead magnet. So if you've got an organic traffic source and people are opting into your lead magnet, what most people do is they say, thank you, here's your lead magnet. Yeah. And that is a point where people are primed and they're ready to go. So they have they've got a problem, they've maybe seen one of your videos on YouTube, they've searched on Google, they've found your website, they've seen a lead magnet, they've decided, yes, I'm going to give my email address to this person because I want to solve this problem. They've got the problem clear in their head, and then you go, oh yeah, thanks, cool. It's like, no, this is the time to offer them something. So a tripwire is a low-priced offer that you put on that confirmation page. So you put an eyebrow headline, like a little tiny headline at the very, very top that says, thank you so much for signing up. That will be with you in about 10 minutes. In the meantime, check out this offer. And you offer something that you might normally sell for like $99, you offer it for $27 or something cheap like that. So cheap that they don't have to think that much about whether to buy it or not. Okay. So then you have the full sales page that I kind of started to outline before. And then you go through to a great checkout page, and then you have an order bump, and you have an upsell, and like ways of maximizing the revenue from that. And then you just put that funnel down, and you see what happens in terms of the conversion rate. And we're looking to get to like at probably 3 to 5%, maybe as high as 10% conversion rate at that point, which is higher than almost any other point in the entire funnel you'll ever get. Oh, wow. Once that funnel, if that funnel's not converting at that rate, we're going to look at a number of different steps. Let's say we're going to track the conversion rate from the sales page to the checkout page, from the checkout page to buying, the percentage of those people who buy, who then buy the order bump, the percentage of them who buy the upsell. And we're going to look at benchmark data for each of those things, and we're going to see, are we hitting the benchmark, and which one's the furthest from benchmark, and if it's not reaching it, what do we need to do to improve it? And so then you go through and you go, okay, the sales page, people aren't clicking through from the sales page to the checkout page. We want a conversion rate there of ballpark 25%, which is quite high, but it's like this is a time when you tend to get that kind of conversion rate. If we're getting 13%, then we go, okay, we know that we can probably improve the sales page, so we're going to work on that one. And so you kind of break it down step by step, and you work on each of those stages. Once the whole funnel is working, you've iterated it, you've improved it, what have you, then you test out running ads into the lead magnet. And then if that's working, you're starting to get some of your money back from the people who opt into the leads magnet. You might also test ads straight into the main funnel as well. Now, tripwire, like I said, is not necessarily the one to use. You could have VSL, you could have webinar, you could have a sales call, whatever. But it's just one for low ticket offers that's the simplest for people to get started with. So I think it's a great kind of starting point.
And if someone goes for the tripwire and they spend $27, does that mean that they are still eligible to buy something for $5,000? Or could you, in my mind, I would label that person as a low ticket person.
Right. So this is where it depends what you're selling, right, on the back end. So if you're selling $200-$300 courses, it makes sense to sell a $27 thing. If you're selling $5,000 program, you might be like, okay, what can I extract? This is the way I like to come up with tripwires, is I want to extract something from the main product that solves a small part of the problem. So it is useful but incomplete. So they solve it and they go, oh, cool, that was amazing. I got this result. Oh, but now I know I need to solve all the rest of it. So when I'm selling a service, right, where I will help people with their email marketing and their funnels. And if it's a done-for-you service for somebody, then they might be spending like $10,000 or $20,000 a month with us. Yeah. Like we charge people based on a percentage of how much more money they make. Yeah. So we might be making them $100,000 extra a month. We might get paid $20,000. That's a lot of money. So our tripwire, our front-end offer is we're going to do an audit for them, which is like $5,000. Yeah. Now, how can that be the same thing as the $27 product? But it's the same concept, right? It's the first step. So our audit is the thing that when we used to just do proposals for people, we would have to do all of that stuff first anyway before you could start working on a project. So we thought, let's just extract it and then charge for that separately. Then someone can spend some money with us, get a result, go, that was amazing, let me go spend some more money with you.
Yeah.
Not many people want to sign up and go, right, I'm going to spend $100,000 without ever having done anything with you. But they could spend $5,000. That's kind of okay. So for your coaching, is that right? It was a coaching program?
Yeah.
So what are you solving for people? This is about getting people guest podcasting.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. So we want to create the best podcast guests in the world, but we want them to make money from it. So it is one of the highest leveraged marketing channels in the world. The best entrepreneurs in the world are doing it. Most people get stuck with just dancing on TikTok, doing Instagram Reels. They're not doing the high leverage things, right?
Yeah.
And then behind that, you're learning about positioning. You're learning about how to speak in stories and epiphanies. You're then learning how to actually create the business in the back end. So they need to spend $5,000 to $20,000 with us. That's where the programs sit.
Yeah.
So then if a tripwire was $27,
yeah,
we've even tried a challenge at $300 and we stopped it because the conversion from 300 up to 20,000, non-existent.
Right.
It's tiny.
So let's kind of try and figure this out. What are the steps they need to go through when they're in your coaching program? And maybe we can extract one of those and sell that.
Yeah, so it goes through the idea of positioning. So they need to position themselves. So the thing that I will harp on around is that no one understands their positioning. They think they do, but even if they do, if they then have the angle behind it. So when you're positioned as someone who goes on podcasts, for example, you could be positioned as the fitness expert. Fine, that will work for your business. That won't work for podcasts. Because I can't have someone come on and sit here and talk about fitness. Because then what about if next week someone does exactly the same? So you have to solve a narrow problem. So in this conversation now, right, you know so much about funnels and the idea of this business for online, but we're very narrow into email marketing, and we've spoken about funnels that sort of think for you. We have to be specific, because otherwise there's too many people that can talk about the same thing and we can't get into your expertise. So we need them to understand their positioning. We need them to understand their angle. That's the first thing for everyone. So even if someone does 2 million a month, some of our clients do 2 million a month, we still will go back to this because they won't get on podcast by saying, I'm great at whatever it is they do.
Yeah.
So if we can get that to work, then we know that the next part is very simple. So sort of actually pitching to podcasts, putting a strategy together of which podcast you should go on, because obviously people are going to go, well, I'll go on business podcasts. Well, do we think that business owners only listen to business podcasts exclusively? No. They listen to relationship, comedy, food, sport. So how do you strategize with that? And then from there, you can go through a whole business concept, right? Like, how do you actually make sure that your business is going to be aligned with what you're speaking about? Because it's very easy to sit here for an hour and speak about something that's going to drive you no traffic. So I guess to answer your question, if I could solve someone's problem right at the start, the first thing is always positioning an angle. If we can solve that, the rest of it's downhill for us.
And what I then want to do is think back from your ideal prospect, the person who would spend $20,000.
Yep.
If they've solved the positioning one, will that help them to then understand, aha, now I need the rest of the program?
Yeah.
Okay. So that might be then the starting point. So what would the kind of person who is going to be willing to spend $20,000 and who wants to solve this problem, what structure, what format would that positioning section look like? Would it be one-to-one? Would it be group? Would it be, how might that look for them?
So it'd be one-to-one. It'd be one-to-one. They'd have access to success managers and to the head coaches, but it would be one-to-one at that level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then that might be the thing to sell first. It doesn't guarantee it'll work, but it might be, since we're kind of trying to brainstorm this on a podcast, right? If you can say, right, what we're going to do as an offer is we're going to help you to get your positioning figured out. And then from there, it's going to be easier to upsell them into the rest of the program. But they don't have to spend $20,000 up front. They just spend whatever it is, I don't know, $3,000 or something. And then that's something that you can then test and say, right, we know we've got X number of people who they were interested, but they never signed up. Or they look like they'd be a good fit, who we could reach out to one-to-one and kind of try this with. Or get in a call with them. Because you want qualitative feedback at the start, right? Yeah. You're making enough money from each person that you can afford to spend a bunch of time on them. And so you could start out with phone calls with them or WhatsApp messages or what have you, to just be like, this is something we're thinking of doing, or this is an offer we're thinking of creating, or I've got this one step and we've got a bit of capacity this month. We're going to try this, doing this for 3 people, and see what kind of reaction you get. So like I try out offers all the time I've got a WhatsApp group, which is a bunch of people who are from my audience and they're very loyal fans. They listen to my podcast. They want to work with us, but maybe they haven't done so far. Some of them do work with us. And I'll come up with an idea for an offer. I'm like, what if we just helped people with an email promotion? Not everything, just with email promotion. How might that work? And then I'll go test it out, and I'll do it with like 2 or 3 people, and I'll message in the group. And if nobody replies, I'm like, maybe it's a stupid idea, right? And if 15 people are like, oh, yes, please, that's exactly what I need. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm onto something here. And then I'll go test it out.
What would you pay for that
them.
kind of thing?
Yeah.
That's what you ask them.
Yeah. So like, not just what would you pay, but like, I'm looking at doing this. Do you want to try this out? We're going to do a special offer for the first few people who go through it, what have you. And then I try it and I go, well, did those people seem to convert to that next stage? And if so, cool, great, we're going to use it. And what I ended up doing actually by the end of this is I tried out 7 different versions like this, and then I figured out how to combine them all together and make that into a, the one main offer that happened to work better than the others. But I didn't know in advance. I had to try all of this stuff out.
That's really interesting. I mean, our conversion is good. There's lots of people going in, but not the problem, but the interesting part of what you've just said is that we take them through a 6P process effectively, which is positioning, positioning, profile, posting, podcast, profit, performance. Because the idea is that we want to get them onto shows that are strategically aligned, but ultimately build out the business behind it. So that's the profit part. You have to make money from it, otherwise you're not going to do it again and again. You think it's just PR. So actually, maybe we can break that down and go, well, how do we solve the first bit? Test that as an offer. How do you break down the second bit? Test that as an offer. That's quite interesting. I hadn't thought about it like that, because someone might be looking at something slightly different when we're trying to sell them the entire thing on the landing page.
Yeah, and it's like these are all just like angles to test, right? It doesn't mean that this is... So what I've done in the past is I've tried out all different ways of like, what if we had this way of selling the offer to our email list, and what if we had this way, and what have you. And then eventually, after trying a bunch, I found for me something that works amazingly as the front end one, which is kind of the opposite actually. So I invite my ideal guests onto my podcast.
Okay.
And then during the podcast, I will help them to solve a bit of the problem.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, oh, you aren't doing email promotions. This could make you a ton more money. Let me explain how much more money this could make you. Let me explain to you how email promotions work. And then I'll say, actually, we should talk more about this. And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. And then I'll like get on another call and I'll help them more with it. And at the end of it, I'll say, do you want us to just actually
like a podcast
do this
funnel
for you? You know? And so I had tried out 10 different ways of like trying to get people in, and I'm like, oh no, that's the one that works the best. So now I'm just doubling down on that, and everything else is kind of falling a bit by the wayside, So it's like,
it's perfect. You found the thing.
Yeah.
So if someone's listening to this, John, and they know, okay, I need to now look at my funnel. You talked me into all this stuff. What is a 90-minute fix they could do now to look at their funnel, even just understand the data and go, okay, here is the problem? Is there something that they could do now to look at it?
Yeah. So the way to do it is, and nearly all of my clients hate it when I tell them this, so we kind of do this for them, but like, is to create a spreadsheet and break down your funnel step by step. Now, whatever your funnel is, we're going to break it down step by step, and we're going to look at what are the conversion rates at each stage. And then we're going to look at what are benchmark conversion rates for each of those stages. Now, that can be tricky because you might not know what benchmark conversion rates are. But let's say you are running a webinar funnel, right? And you're already running a webinar funnel and it's kind of not working nearly as well as you thought. Then you break down, okay, well, what's our traffic source for it, and how many people are opting in when they get to the opt-in page? And then how many of those people show up? And then of the people who show up, how many stay to the end? And of the people who stay to the end, how many then take the next action, buy the thing or book the call? If it's book a call, how many people who book the call attend the call? How many people who attend the call buy? Right, okay. So we've got all the numbers, and then between each of the numbers, we've got the conversion percentages. And then we want to go and talk to a whole bunch of other people and find out, well, what are the conversion percentages for each of those that you should be reaching? And then you find you want something that's on that critical path that is as far below benchmark as possible. Because if it's on the critical path, as in like if you double that conversion percentage, you double the sales, and it's way below conversion benchmarks, then that means it's going to be easy to improve it. Let's say that the opt-in page, right? Let's say, so a decent opt-in rate is going to be about 40% from warm traffic. If you're at 35, it's like you could probably get it up, but it's going to take work. And you might run some tests and they may or may not work, and it's tricky. But let's say your conversion from the webinar through to booking a call is only like a couple of percent, and you know it should be like 10%. It's like, oh, okay, that's your problem here. And so then we start to dive into that stage with it and try and figure out how do you improve that.
Finding the outliers, finding the things where there's the biggest opportunity cost.
Yes. Yeah,
that's wicked. That's such a good bit of advice. John, the online business space, especially in funnels, is so noisy.
Mm-hmm.
There are few experts. There are lots of people speaking, but few experts like yourself. If all of the advice was wiped off the table, what's the one thing you'd want to remind people who are looking at trying to scale their business online?
I think so. For most people who I talk to, they've done the majority of the work and they don't realize it. So they've built all of the potential. They've built an audience and they've built the product, and they just forgot to do the bit where they help people kind of bridge the gap between it. And the biggest thing I think that stops them, more than the technical knowledge, is the fear. The fear that doing it is going to make them feel bad about themselves, because they're going to feel like, oh, now I'm salesy and spammy and aggressive and what have you. And to remind people then that the first step you need to take is to understand that you can do this in a way that helps people. That's not going to solve the whole problem, but I think it would be step one to take.
I think it's perfect.
I can't do the whole thing in one step, but that's my best guess.
Because that's the thing that people are struggling with, right? Everyone's scared of changing their funnel and breaking it, or even just give it. I think the best thing you said then was about people don't realize they've already done the work.
Yeah.
And it could be that they've even made a funnel, but it's in the wrong order, and just take someone to look at it and go, you're nearly there, but not quite. John, where can people find you online?
Yeah, so I run a podcast called The Art of Selling Online Courses. And then if people want to go check out the site, it's datadrivenmarketing.co.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been really, really insightful.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to that episode. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed speaking to that guest. If you scroll down now, you will find a link to our Healthy Hustle newsletter. There's more than 10,000 people receiving the newsletter every week, and it helps break down how to become a top podcast guest. It will also break down exactly what this guest that you've just listened to did to create such a great episode that you've just listened to. I hope it's helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.